So when we're talking about interest rate, I don't want it to be a prolonged objection because interest rates fluctuate every single day. So you can sit here and try to wait for the best interest rate and never get into the property that you desire because you're going to be still waiting 20 years now, because a lot of times many first-time home buyers are not in a financial position to stay in the same position to purchase a home the next 5 years from now, because life happens. Do not remove yourself from home ownership based on the interest rate. Worst case scenario, you refinance. Get into a lower interest rate, and now you can be able to put yourself in a position to possibly pay a lower mortgage because your interest rate have been reduced. All right. So do not push yourself out of home ownership based on interest rates. There's always strategies to be able to lower your interest rate by buying down rates, having considerable closing costs added to buy down the interest rates, or a loan officer or a realtor being able to contribute to buy down your interest. There's so many different strategies that you can apply. Do not let this market of interest rates scare you to remove you out of the position of home ownership.
Absolutely. Don't let nobody trick you out these streets of home ownership. And that's for sure. So, and it really flows in nicely of what you said, man, right into the last kind of real estate topic we have for you guys today. Is now a good time to buy? Did you miss out? Mr. Davis is telling you, you did not miss out. And this, I really want to break it down because, again, buying real estate is something that, it's a American dream, right? It's definitely an American dream, and it's one of the biggest single purchases we're going to make. We have to really approach this with a lot of understanding and education. And so let's compare 2022 to now. Compare 2021 to 2022, right? So let's compare the timing of what it looked like. So let's say last year in 2021, you're trying to buy a $300,000 home. Now, as we know, homes were going crazy. If it was listed for 300, I don't care what major market you were in, you wasn't about to pay 300,000 for that. It was going to have 5, 10, 20 offers on that property being listed in the hour. Literally people were offering on homes without even seeing them. Like if your realtor didn't work, if you was a realtor and you didn't work full time and you couldn't show the person the house the minute they wanted to see it, they was probably firing you because they needed to get to that house quick. And that's how the offers was going, right? So we're looking at the pro and cons, right? So yeah, before we had some lower interest rates, and really that was the only pro that you really had there. You had a lot more cons because, as I'm describing, it was crazy competition. People were overpaying way above the appraised value. Now think about that, right? When you paying above appraised value, that means it's worth this amount and you paying more than it's worth. It's like, how many times are you going to pay more than something's worth? Like, it's like I'm going, like, if you ever been to a restaurant and it's like, well, technically the steak only costs $20 for this meal, but since everybody want to order it today, we charging $70. You want to pay it or not? It's like, that's kind of ridiculous when you really think about it. Or even, at one point people was doing that last Christmas, right? When they wanted to get their kids the PlayStation 5, people was paying way over the price. So it's like during COVID, we just had some decisions that, a lot of us were making that didn't really make sense, man. And I think real estate was one of them. And because you were overpaying, you had to actually put that money up in cash. And that's something that a lot of the first time home buyers that I talk to, they're not really understanding that part of it. It's like, well, okay, well, yeah, the interest rates were lower last year, but you using a down payment assistance program, or you barely got the 5% or the 3.5% FHA money right now that you need. You actually don't even got your closing costs. I'm paying you your closing costs for you. Me and Ken working the deal to get you your closing costs. All you got is your minimum down payment. So you wouldn't have been able to buy a house in that market anyway, because you had to put an extra $50,000 down. That had to be cash money. You don't have that. So the opportunity to buy during that market wasn't even an option for you. Like let's really sit here and say it and be realistic. That wasn't an option for you. You don't have that type of money. You know what I mean? And a lot of us don't have that type of money. I mean, I think even if you had that type of money, it could kind of get to the point of it's ridiculous to have to do that. And even some of the homes that I secured during that time, it's like if you were able to get it at appraised value, that was because it was a fixer upper, and you needed to dump 30 to 50,000 into remodeling the property. So it's a lot to consider, man. It's definitely a lot to consider in that market. Ken, I know in San Diego, man, you guys were looking at it, and it was crazy out there, right?
Man, it was the wild wild west. I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, I'll give you a personal example myself. My wife and I, we were looking for a property. And when I tell you we were out looking for a property with again the family that we have, we want to be able to make sure that we're able to have enough space, to house our family. We go out looking for a few properties here, and we were getting outbid $100,000, $80,000. And anybody knows me, man. I'm an investor first, man. The numbers matter to me. So it just did not make sense in any way, shape, form, or fashion to go ahead and try to compete with cash buyers that are bidding over $100,000 or $50,000. I don't want the house that bad. I don't want it that bad. There is not a bone in my body to say, oh, go try to compete with. There's the numbers matter. Okay, you don't run into wealth unintentionally, right? This stuff is intentional. So I'm going to intentionally not purchase this house and settle down and wait until it's the right time to buy. Because again, like we said before, the price matters, right? Price matters, entry points matter, and we always have to consider when to enter the market. So at that point in time, my family, I can sit back and wait. And when it's time to buy, it's time to buy. And when it's not, it's not. But we can utilize those funds to go ahead and, do other things in our lives. So it's just crazy. I would be remiss to come on here and tell you guys that was a great market to buy. The only great thing about it was the interest rates. Okay, I'm not saying that if you purchase in that time frame that you got shafted or anything of that nature, because I definitely wouldn't say that, because there was, again, here in the San Diego market, let me tell you this: it does nothing to go. It's going to continue to go up. Okay, so getting in is great. You have to get in, and if you got in at a 2.5 interest rate, that's amazing. That's awesome. I would advise you to never refinance, never move that interest rate, and continuously to have that home in your portfolio for the rest of your life until the principal is paid down. But what I will say is, now when you are actually shopping in a serious nature and you want to purchase, now is the time to get in, just due to the fact, the competition. It's not so much competition. Okay, you can go to a new home build, and even go to a new home build and get a lower interest rate there, because they're trying to have promotions to be able to get you lower interest rates to get into the property that you want. Because at the end of the day, building isn't going to stop. Okay, it's just not at a rapid rate as it once was, but it's not going to stop. So now they still have to fill these homes. People are scared to buy, so now it's an opportune time for you to go ahead and mosey on in there and see what they got, because guess what, the power is within you. Okay, so again, crunch the numbers, sit down, understand that this is not an emotional purchase. Okay, because I think a lot of loan officers and sometimes realtors tend to forget the emotional component of this, right? It becomes discouraging, not getting offers accepted, still running around every other weekend, or every week, looking at this house, looking at that house. There's an emotional component there, beyond anything, right? If you can envision your family playing in that living room or that backyard, there's an emotional component that's gonna tag along with your money, and you're gonna be almost willing to do anything to get a home if you want it bad enough. But trust me, remove that, put yourself in position to be able to crunch the numbers, look at it black and white, and actually make sure that you're making a sound decision for you and your family, not making an emotional decision based on if you want that home. Really crunch the numbers. You got to think like an investor when going down these roads, whether if it's 2021, 22, 23, 24, and I'm moving on. Okay. Because at the end of the day, your financial success, it's within you. You're the responsible person. You're the responsibility of that. All right.
Absolutely. No, that's great. And then you brought up a good point, man, because it's really like playing musical chairs last year. But because again, if you got a great interest rate and you got in maybe a whole entire year ago, right? You were good, but if you were getting in at the tail end of that and you were still paying above market value for a property when it hit like 2022 in April, May, and some markets even into June, now you just paid $100,000 over and then the market just crashed, right? So now, yeah, you have a low interest rate, but now you're underwater, right? So if you got in again anytime in 2021, I think you should be fine. But depending on when you got in 2022, if you got in that first half of the year, you might be in a situation where you could technically be underwater a little bit for a period of time until the market corrects. But I would even say because that interest rate is so low, you still have such a good payment that, yeah, you can't sell the house and make any money, right? Because maybe you paid $400,000 for the house and technically it only could sell for $350,000, right? But your payment is so low, even if you bought it at $350,000 right now, your payment wouldn't be right about the same or a little bit more. So you're still in a good position. So that's why everything is so nuanced to look at.
That's a great position to be in. I mean, just think about adding again a couple hundred extra dollars a month to go ahead and pay down that principal with a 2% interest rate over time. We can really crunch the numbers and see what you'll be when your principal to be too low enough where you can go ahead and refinance or take a HELOC out to go ahead and get that same 50,000, but keep that same interest rate that you were going to have regardless. So it's all subjective, right? It's all subjective. It's all about critical thinking. It's all about the knowledge that you have. It's all about the people that you're working with. Make sure you're working with knowledgeable people to put you in position of power. All right. So, and again, what I will, and I got a moment of transparency as well. You were talking about 2022, 2021. Listen, think about it, 2020, man. When COVID first hit, that same property that I was just that I wanted to move in, it ballooned up to $830,000. When 2020, it was 610.
Right.
It was 610. Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that for a moment. In 2 years. So think about if I was able to get in during that pullback there. Do not be fearful. Do not be fearful. I just seen a statistic is saying that we're coming on as a human race going over 8 billion people. People are still having kids. Guess what? Those kids are going to need somewhere to live, and those kids are going to have kids, and they're going to need somewhere to live. We're not getting to Mars fast enough to colonize Mars yet.
Absolutely. Yep. So yeah, and what we have to do, man, is make apples to apples comparisons, right? So
Yeah.
we're looking at this. It's like the only problem with buying in 2022 and possibly 2023 is that you're gonna have a higher interest rate. But again, as we alluded to, it's a lot less competition. You're paying a less of a list price, and you need less upfront cost. So when we're talking about the less upfront cost, I did a comparison here versus 2021 and 2022. I really want you to pay attention to. Let's say the house was listed for $300,000, right? Now, in 2021, you paying $50,000 over for that property. Yeah, you getting maybe a 3.75 interest rate as the example here. Well, now, even though you only planned on putting about 5% down, now since you're paying over, you need 72 racks to bring the closing. Do you have that? I don't know. So, let's talk about that. But now for that $300,000 list home, you're like, man, it's about 9,500 homes on the market in Vegas. I'm not about to pay you $300,000 for that home. However, we split this up between you paying some of my closing costs, taking money off the price, buying down the interest rate, I want to pay about $275 for that house. Okay, all right. Well, then, yeah, the interest rate 6.75%. But now we do the numbers, and now you only bring in $21,000 to close, which you could use one of them down payment programs we mentioned. They got about 20,000 for you. Okay,
So you're saying $50,000 less as you bring it to the table.
$50,000 less to close.
Incredible. But the faster you get in, the faster you'll be able to accumulate that extra 50K. That again, I'm sorry, that 20K that you can go ahead and put in, and now you're going to be in position of power to negotiate. Negotiation is everything right now.
Absolutely. And then see, everybody's looking at the interest rate, but then now let's look at the fact of what that payment is. Like, yeah, is your payment more? Absolutely, it is more. About, almost $400 more, right? But let's be real. A lot of us spend $400 a month eating out and doing different things like that. But over the course of a 10-year time period, when we crunch these numbers, the cost actually is less buying the house now than it was before. So it's like you didn't really miss out on much. So if you bought before, great. In this scenario, you had the extra cash to put down, or you got a really good deal there, and that's what your 10-year cost is. But they're only
Mhm.
about you $6,000 different, which if you're able to finesse it now over a 10-year period, you're paying less. And that's not even to really compensate for the fact that you can refinance and thinking about all those different options, because most people don't pay their same interest rate over the 30-year life of the loan.
They don't.
At some point, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 7 years from now, you're going to be able to refinance that property. And another thing is, if you're in Las Vegas, you're only going to stay in that property for about 7 years until you sell it or turn it into a rental. That's the average amount of time that people stay in a property here. San Diego, Southern California, a little different because of the pricing and the weather and all kind of other things. They pick a house and they there 15 years plus on average. But
And when you say that, there is a caveat, right? When we're talking about that staying in homes, we also got to think about our military family, right? A lot of those military family are PCSing every few years. A lot of times that's the objection to not buying. But if you go ahead and take a look at the chart that Mr. Jones have go ahead and put up, he's already shown you what 5 years ago it'll go ahead will pay you out in appreciation, right? So if you're there for that 3 year time frame or that 5 year time frame, and then you're PCSing, and what I mean by permanent change of duty station, okay, so going somewhere else to relocate because the military needs you to, guess what? You've actually going to be able to sell your property and be able to recoup that $82,000 that you and your family can then go put into another home. And now that same interest rate that you worry about, you've already have a down payment to go ahead and combat that interest rate.
man,
Okay.
yeah, it gets you right back to this chart. Now that's a very good segue right back to what would you rather do for that 5 year period, man. And as you can see, that's a phenomenal example, man. I really appreciate that. A good level of insight, especially for our veterans on Veterans Day. It's like, let's get you into some property, man. Like, we don't want any type of barriers for making you and your family feel comfortable and safe in the home that you guys live in.
At the end of the day, listen, veterans, you guys have fought for this country, okay? And now it is time for you to have home ownership to own a piece of this country. All right? Take the time. Take the time. Sit down with your wife, your significant other, and figure out how you can get to home ownership in the fastest traceable means. And if you need a little assistance, please give Mr. Jones here a call, myself a call, and we'll go ahead and we would be more than happy to assist.
Man, that was a great real estate conversation, dropping a lot of gems and a lot of knowledge, man. You probably gonna have to watch this more than once to really pick up on everything, man. So
Yes,
definitely,
sir.
but also our contact information is below, so you can definitely contact me everything real estate. Even if you're not in the Las Vegas market, I can definitely connect you with someone in San Diego, of course, and also in other places in California and throughout the country, because I am well connected in this industry. But we definitely want to spend the remaining time here today, especially we got veteran Kenneth Davis here, and talk a little bit more about the veteran issues going into 2023 and some different things that are some phenomenal changes, man. So, Mr. Davis, man, what's going on in that space for him?